it is completely changed, and we're all here to tell you that the volume, the types of exploits, how can you manage real intent are critical. So look at all the layers and address all the layers. I think it's the key thing. Address all the layers.
There's a lot of people, like companies, who just like don't want to think about security, and I think they should just find someone who does.
Guys, when I was preparing this, there's a lot of things that you can talk about, but I think the AI has caused a lot more security issues to be found, reported, and created. So let me start with my first question, and I'm going to give it to Oliver first because he already had a remark about the question itself. But if discovery to breach really hits 0, how do we defend? If we find a bug and it's immediately exploited everywhere, so if everyone is immediately attacking the security issue within seconds, how do we defend?
So we just analyzed like 2025 data where we took vulnerabilities that were discovered and then made public, and then because we are applying those mitigation rules per vulnerability and deploying it through the hosting companies, then we see how fast these attacks are coming in against these specific vulnerabilities. The average time of mass exploitation was at 5 hours. So I don't know, anyone managing website, when there's like a software update available, are they going to like, especially like, have update coming out like 1 a.m. And then are you going to wake up in the morning and doing the update before that 5 hour? Quite unlikely. And I think that applies across the board. Like I just mentioned when I was vibe coding a lovable website, and then I was just doing like a really simple donut website and looking into, what AI is making it with, and it came out of the box with 149 dependencies. Obviously, like when I get started with it, it is up to date and things like that. But what's happening in 6 months? What's going to happen when a new vulnerability is being found there? What happens when there's a supply chain overtake of those components, which is happening quite often in Node.js. So it's I think this it's easier than ever in the world to find new vulnerabilities, and we're dealing with a lot of slop AI reports as well. I think everyone in the open source ecosystem is dealing with a lot of volume of vulnerability reports coming in that link back to OpenClaw files, and then you're just like, okay, who actually sent that? And then, I think this is also something that the hackers are using to be able to also find the vulnerabilities fast, because it is possible to also, figure out with exploitation. And people who in the past were like called script kiddies are now like script kiddies on steroids, who can just kind of like almost have like the same level of capabilities than some of the APTs. So I think it's going to be a cat and the mouse game. We're just going to have different tools to play that game. So it's just going to get more intense.
Aaron, do you see anything changing in that regard on the Monarch side?
Definitely. I think that the shorter that time frame becomes, the harder the old process is of recognizing the issue, coming up with the fix, rolling it out. To your point, like, is someone going to be up in that 5-hour gap and ready to update all their production systems in that time and those kinds of things? And so I think that we're seeing a shift toward less can we recognize this one specific vulnerability, and more can we recognize behaviors and patterns that indicate this could be bad, even if we had never seen the actual vulnerability before. And I think more and more security systems, no matter what layer you sit at, are going to have to move towards that more behavior-based understanding what might be happening, even if we've never seen that exact action before. Because it becomes, if that time really reaches 0, where there is no time to prepare between when it's discovered and when it's exploited, you just have to be prepared for that ahead of time, watching for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a significant shift in the way things have happened, but I think it's the way that these kinds of AI tools that the hackers are now employing is kind of pushing our industry.
So I want to get to these other guys, but the guy next to me has moderated more sessions than I'm ever going to do in my life and was pointing out to me that I forgot to actually introduce these guys to you. So let's do that real quickly first, and you can start, Robert.
Oh, I can start because I picked on you for it. I'm Robert Jacobi, Chief Experience Officer at Blackwall. We focus on security and intent-based visibility, which Aaron was kind of touching on with behavioral measuring at the DNS level, firewall level for security.
Igor?
So I'm founder of CloudLinux. We do Minify. We sit on like 64 million websites, protecting them.
Founder of Patchstack, focusing on vulnerability discovery and application, specifically like application runtime security on the kind of the deepest end, I guess.
VP of product at Monarx, and we focus on solving the malware issue, especially across the hosting environments.
You mentioned layers. Igor, how do you see this industry? As in, like, do you look at it as the layers yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there is definitely, like, security in depth and all the layers are part of security overall, and we have to go there. Let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to address one of the points which I found interesting. So yes, we're also seeing that since the vulnerability gets discovered, the time for exploit is very short. What we haven't noticed is the rollout of the exploit, like actual exploitations, taking shorter amount of time. So before it would take, like, after hackers weaponize the vulnerability, it would take them anywhere from 18 to 30 days to attack the fleet. It's still the same time frame. So if you think that, hey, if I don't upgrade in 5 hours, I'm done, no, not at all. You still have days before they actually get to your site. And I think it creates a little bit more time and a little bit less panic that the world is over.
Aaron and I are just looked at each other like, well.
I don't know that that has been our experience. I do think, I mean, you might be one of the lucky ones that is at that
65
30.
million websites. So we sit on 2 layers. So we actually sit on multiple layers. We see IPs, we see actual exploits, and we see malware. So we see all of that, and we can tell you that this particular malware on this particular server was delivered through this particular vulnerability. We're, I think, the only people here who can see all 3. It takes 18 to 30 days for them to roll out the campaign. It doesn't take 5 hours for them to roll out. You're not going to hit your particular site. It's not going to be hit within 5 hours. Some sites will be hit within 5 hours, but they simply cannot hit 60 million of sites or 600 millions of sites with the attack at the same time.
Yeah, but I think we're, yes, the huge volume of sites, fine. Yeah, I can't hit 600 million sites at one time. But the threats are getting so sophisticated that it's like, I want to target these, 2,000 financial institutions.
Oh, of course.
And so that vulnerability time to exploit, to deployment of destruction, that's shrinking down to 0. So that's why you need to stop in all the other layers with the most specific tools to handle that.
100%. If you're running websites that are critical infrastructure, if you're running websites doing tens of millions in dollars in transactions, 100%. You have to be there. You have to be there all the time. You have to fix it right away. If you're running a small e-commerce shop, you'll be day 10, day 7, maybe day 3.
Is that your feeling too, Oliver? I see you.
I mean, for example, we released this white paper, and what we did, actually, we partnered with Monarx in that sense because, as Igor said, like, we don't have the visibility into what is happening with the malware or like when the malware is getting injected. What we do have a visibility to is when every single other layer of WAFs are failing on the network level, on the server level, and when the WordPress, like when the specific vulnerability is being exploited inside of a WordPress site, plugin or something. That's where we see exactly when it's happening. And I think like what benefit we have in a sense is that because like 76% of all known security vulnerabilities in the WordPress ecosystem are coordinated by us. So we are like literally sitting on, like we are the one making this information public. Then we have like a very good visibility in sense of when it's actually getting published, even many times before they even get the CVE, right? And then once they are getting hit with like this, against the virtual patch, because we are making them at the same time and we are deploying the mitigation rules the moment when the vulnerability is published to the world. So this gives us the visibility in terms of when these specific vulnerabilities are being exploited. But I'm not talking about generic attacks. So, but when connecting that with Monarx data, we can actually, like we gave them the IOAs, like indications of attacks, like we gave them the payloads and everything, so they could basically cross-reference that back into malware that is being connected to that. So that allowed us to kind of like cross the entire loop. And that's where we came to that data. And that 5 hours data is actually not really like business critical websites. Like, I mean, these are like, just it's an average of everything. Yeah. So it's like all kinds of websites.
But it's an average of everything who have already installed your software. So
yes.
To a degree, it is secure. People who are security minded who probably.
So this is like 5 hours is when we published the vulnerability. Yeah. And we get the hit against this mitigation rule.
Real quick, because I know that the numbers in the WordPress ecosystem are changing really quickly. I recently saw, not all of you might look at the WordPress ecosystem, and you'd be right in many ways. But I recently saw that the plugins team for WordPress.org was asking for more people because they're getting more plugin submissions than we've ever seen. And the number of new plugins being created is going up dramatically. Does that cause a lot more issues to be reported as well?
Well, we are having a significant issue right now with AI slop reports coming in to, like we are running this bug bounty program where anyone can find vulnerabilities in the plugins, report them to us, and we help them coordinate that. We act as a security point of contact for some of the biggest plugins in the WordPress ecosystem. So if someone finds something, we kind of like help them to filter out, stuff.
But you're getting way more than last year?
Significantly more. In January alone, we got 1,500 reports, so, and we have to kind of like churn through all of that. Yeah. I mean, there's literally cases where we see some ethical hackers who have been doing, or who now want to get into bug bounty, and they have like set up OpenClaw machines and say like, hey, you are a bug bounty hunter, go into those bug bounty programs, find vulnerabilities and report them, bring money back home. Yeah. And we now need to deal with all of that volume. So it's definitely a challenge from a security kind of process perspective as well.
In that same vein, and not specifically in the WordPress space only, because we protect against anything on the server, not just WordPress, but the number of like globally unique malicious files has so significantly increased year over years. Especially, I was looking back at the numbers from like say 2022 to now, when AI really started being used a little bit more till now. It's more than 2x'd every year, and it's gone up a little. And like last year, we saw like 8.6 trillion, and that's massive. And it has just ramped up, and I expect that that's going to continue, both with the plugins being written by AI or just malware being written, re-obfuscated, and thrown back out there again and again and again.
And that's just what you're seeing at that level, because when we're working at the DNS level, we're seeing it's almost 60%. This year easily will hit 60% of all internet traffic is some kind of bot traffic. And of that bot traffic, you're looking at least half of that, at least, is bad malicious traffic, or all attempts. So 30+% of the entire internet is being run by thieves, bots, malicious actors, vulnerability scams.
But that's great, so we can log out and nothing happens to the internet.
That's right.
So AI is being used to create stuff and to create more security issues. But Igor, are you also already using AI to create more defenses?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think we should expect the next 2 years to be somewhat attackers are winning, because it will take for everyone to catch up. It will take for people to upgrade. But I'm very optimistic. I see that we will be able to catch up on security, and then it will be significantly harder for attackers to attack, and software will get more secure to the level that the number of successful attacks will drop to 10% of what we're seeing today.
How's that true for you, Blackwall?
I mean, we started as sort of an AI machine learning first security company to detect vulnerabilities, and as we've gone through sort of the changes in how traffic looks like on the internet, we're now looking at sort of traffic management 3.0, like it's this is a agentic universe of traffic. The trick is, and I love that Aaron mentioned it earlier, is finding the intent of the traffic, because you're not going to be able to go through 1,500 in January, 2,000 in February, 35,000 at the end of the year vulnerabilities. You need to be able to understand the patterns that are being created by agents versus what normal humans like all of you guys are doing, and how you interact with the website, because if that's how you interact with the website, the bot will try to do that, but they're just not, they're still bots, and there's signatures and tweaks and the way they try to reach out to your website. It could be the best sort of agentic evil bot, but it's going to leave a trail that's different, because maybe it'll try to hit that login box too quickly, or why.
So it's a cat and mouse game of improving that thing. Aaron, how's this working at Monarch? Are you using AI to?
Absolutely. I mean, to be able to process the amount of data that I'm talking about, us pulling through and really make sense of it, and be able to put it back to use to protect all of our customers, we're absolutely using AI for that. One of the things that I find important to bring up every time I say that, though, is that it's not just like AI out there running and doing its own thing. It also requires that expert team steering it constantly. The more I've worked with it over the last 6 or 8 months especially, and really dug in deep with our team, the more I'm realizing that AI is fantastic as long as you are keeping it steered correctly on the path and saying, yes, find me more of this kind of behavior so that we can recognize it earlier. No, ignore that kind of behavior. But it's extremely powerful in helping us turn that data into those behaviors that we want to be able to recognize in order to find those bad actors that he was talking about before you might have an actual hard signal that they're a bad actor, just because of the way they came in or what they're doing or the kinds of things that they're accessing.
So, Oliver, you're getting in tons of reports that are created by AI. Are you already using AI to look at those reports?
So last year we spent quite significant time, and actually in partnership with Google, because we were in the Google AI and cybersecurity program, where we started, we've run this bug bounty program for 5 years, where humans are sending us reports. Well, used to be humans, send us these reports where it's very detailed of what this new vulnerability looks like. It's a POC. This is the data that is not available to anyone else than us. So we started basically building on top of that to create essentially a security researcher that has been in our community, and basically make an AI version of that. The problem is that every 3 months or something, when you get to a point where it's doing pretty well, then you get a new model, and then you're like, okay, let's start building it again. So that has been kind of a challenge, and I would see one problem that has not gone away with AI, specifically when it comes to finding new vulnerabilities, is it's so confident that it's right when it's not. And then when security teams have to churn through all of this vulnerability information, you at one point are I'm going to use AI to find vulnerabilities, and it's going to find these vulnerabilities, but it's also going to tell you that there's 1,000 other things that are not vulnerabilities. And then you compare to a researcher who is okay, I'm just going to do code review, go through the stuff, and then just find the real things. It's almost like the same amount of work is being done, because on one hand, you need to do just so much revalidation. And when it comes to this kind of security, vulnerability finding and things like that, the margin of error you are going to have is so slim that is the challenge there. But this is definitely something that we're working on, and honestly speaking, that is the only way forward, because it is impossible for anyone to do anything manually here, to be able to go and deal with all this volume of vulnerability reports coming in. So
it's the volume.
It's
that's
the only
really
way. The volume is too high. It's not possible to have almost any manual interaction in this process.
So let's go back a tiny bit. We've talked about attackers using AI, but what does that look like? How do they actually use it? Do we have any idea?
I have a good idea. So it's kind of interesting. So right now we're starting to provide web application firewall for WordPress. And the way we develop rules, like within minutes after vulnerability being published, all you have to do, you give old code and new code to AI. You have a WordPress instance that is set up by AI with all those plugins. It will figure out the vulnerability, how to abuse this vulnerability. It can create a solution for that, patch, web application, firewall rule, everything. So all they need is old code, new code, and knowledge that there is a vulnerability, and it's minutes to deliver the...
I 100% see this. So when I used to run the WordPress security team, one of the things that, like, I stopped committing code to WordPress for a while because it was an indicator that people were using that was like, oh, that's probably a security-related thing because the head of the security team committed it to the thing, right? And so people have always been watching big open source repositories and that kind of stuff. The fact that they can now have AI say, here's the old, here's the new, tell me what in this could be exploited, it makes it so much, it's not that they never did that before, but it's so much easier and faster for them now. And so I do think that right now, a lot of what we're seeing is the same stuff that we've been dealing with for many, many years, but just amplified and sped up in a way that we've never experienced before.
I mean, we could go back 30, 40 years when you had modems and dialing up and demon dialing, trying to get all the phone numbers and then going, dumpster diving for credit card receipts and passwords. And now it's the digital version of all that because everything's online. So everyone's computer is now a dumpster that's ready to be exploited. And then there's all the fascinating, well, it's true. And it's
I just like
yes, all your
picturing my
computers are
computer
dumpsters.
as a dumpster, yeah.
But then you get all these fun, like now prompt injection attacks where people are, I'm just going to attach my calendar to whatever LLM and have some fun with it, and then some question's going to come in, and my local LLM will automatically answer that, and in that answer is all of a sudden an exploit and a package delivered, and now everyone's computer becomes another bot that is attacking all of our systems and services. So the breadth of it, so there's the volume, the speed, but also the breadth of being able to create all sorts of new and unique kinds of vulnerabilities and exploits. From a geek perspective, it's fascinating because it's like, wow, that's really cool. Wait a minute, that's really bad. and that's why, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you again. No. But I mean, that's why you have us all in here because we're attacking at different stages except for CloudLinux. But I mean, if we look at it, there's sort of that network layer, the application layer, the infrastructure layer. And the onion approach to security will always be the best because you're trying to knock out as many things at every level, so you only have to worry about them.
I think Oliver called that the Swiss cheese approach to security.
It's actually not called by me, but I think someone else called it this way. But it's a very good example.
Yeah.
Something I want, like this approach that you were talking about, like comparing the diffs, for example. So this is exactly the way how exploits are being done. So this is exactly the way why like this the time to attack is so short because that's what has been done. For the past, few years already as well. Now it's just like writing this exploit is also a lot easier and kind of like deploying the attacks. But something, we've been monitoring the same way, like all these diffs. But something that I see is changing the attack surface quite a lot. And specifically in terms of like WordPress, is agencies are just like now vibe coding. Like 30% of the WordPress site is vibe coded. There's like Node.js infused to WordPress, React, all kinds of stuff is being infused there. Laravel is being basically put together there as well. So it's like if you're looking at WordPress vulnerabilities, and if you're kind of like just focused on that, which we have been for a while, then it's going to be basically impossible to secure a WordPress site at one point because WordPress is now going to merge with so much of the other stuff. And that actually the attack surface is being increased significantly. Like even if we look into like some of those AI-generated plugins, like we've been looking into them, the amount of dependencies that are being nested inside of these plugins is significantly higher. I mean, but it makes sense, right? AI is trained on open source code, and if you look into open source code, it's all like basically dependencies all over the place.
So all your customers are paying you guys to deal with this stuff. and then the security reports end up back in open source repositories where an open source maintainer has to take care of that security report. One of the things I mentioned this morning on our opening panel is I think the funding of that is a real big problem because the amount of things coming in is causing, basically a lot of work for open source maintainers. Do you think there's a responsibility for you, your customers, to start funding some of that security work on the open source projects?
Boy, oh boy.
We're getting into the land of misery of the commons.
The misery of the commons.
Yeah, it's where everyone wants to use it, no one wants to pay for it.
Yeah. No, I fully agree, but do you think that,
I think the problem will be solved differently. I think within the next 6 to 9 months, we will see models improving a little bit more, but more importantly, we will have skills, rules, etc. for models on how to analyze the code for security vulnerabilities and fix it. And the cost of those fixes will drop so much that you'll have two kind of maintainers. Those that maintainers who are in denial and will say, I'm not using AI, I'm better, and you should never use their code again. And those who are using AI, and their code will go through all those checks, safety checks, etc. That counteracts what hackers are doing with the same AI to detect the vulnerability. So like, do I have this vulnerability? Do I have this? Do I have this? Do I have this? Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. And it will be costing us 50 cents per plugin, and we will find a way to sponsor it. It will not be a significant amount of money.
Open source is, free as in beer, not as in speech. So you get to have that stuff out there, but doesn't mean that that money magically comes back to open source. It's just the case. Every open source project has this issue, unless there's some kind of lead company that's pushing. You saw that with Linux. You don't have that without IBM and all those other folks who are putting that money in because they're protecting their own assets. So, with WordPress, you have a few companies that are spearheading that. You have that with Drupal. You have that with a lot of projects, and it's kind of, if your entire business model is based on WordPress, you're pretty likely contributing to it one way or another. It's almost hard not to. Whether you give that money directly to the foundation, for example, that's maybe a different story. And I think it's more to Igor's point that it's got to be somehow that pain needs to be spread out in different ways.
Yeah. In a very idealistic way, I think that while obviously my job, my company, like that's all because the web is kind of a dangerous and I don't know, constantly attacked place. But I want to see, because all of us, not just us that are super into tech, but just people in general, our lives are more and more and more online, and our data is more and more online. So the idealistic bit of let's improve security everywhere we can all across the web, like that's part of why I do what I do, because I think that that's great. And the areas that I can make the biggest difference in right now are the biggest hosts that help the most people, right? And that's my path in. If I can find a solid path into helping open source projects solve those problems too, I would happily. But I think that for me, it's not just open source versus not, it's how can I help make the internet a cleaner, better place, and where can I be most effective with that at the moment?
I would not expect any project to be able to handle, 0-second exploits. It's just not going to be possible. Because
so you need a security layer. We have about 2 minutes left, and I want to actually try and get out of each and every one of 4 of you one tip for what should people do to improve their security stance in the next year. What has really changed that they should act on?
Spend resources on it. A lot of folks are like, okay, I did this 2 years ago. My security is up to date. It is completely changed, and we're all here to tell you that the volume, the types of exploits, how can you manage real intent are critical. So look at all the layers and address all the layers. I think it's the key thing, address all the layers.
Igor?
I agree. You simply cannot run unprotected today. I think you will not be able to run for at least 2 years unprotected. I don't think you should have run unprotected before, and you should not run unprotected later. But for the next 2 years, it will be bloody.
It will be
bloody.
bloody.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I think also there's a lot of people, like companies, who just like don't want to think about security, and I think they should just find someone who does. Like if you don't want to think about it and it feels like something that is like confusing and it's like too much, just find someone that does the thinking for you. Just don't leave it as something that you're like, no, you know.
So it turns out to be a human problem, not a...
I honestly think that security is a human problem, and it's going to be even a bigger problem in the future when, like we talked in the opening panel today about like this cognitive decline of people with, you know, basically not thinking anymore because they let everything done by AI. And I think we are becoming more prone to scams. We are becoming more prone to everything. Ultimately, you know, someone is going to take advantage of that.
Very good.
I think that Robert pretty much hit it on the head, right? Give it focus, give it time, give it resources, because it really is necessary and it is changing so much. What you did that was working before probably isn't now, so you should give it some time and focus and figure out what you need to do next.
Okay, with that, we've come to the end of our time. I want to ask you to join me in a warm applause for these 4 guys.